Okay, I have 10:29, so I think we're going to move through here. In case some of you did not hear, please type your name, your company, your email, and your phone number in the chat so we can get back with you if you have any questions. Okay, we're going to get right into the listing presentation, and one of the things I want to share with you today is what we like to do in our listing presentation with the agents that I'm training, some of the new agents on the team, is we talk about it in sections. And so I've got a lot of my team, some of the newer members on here today. So you're going to notice that there are a few more sections than we normally have in there. And part of that is because of COVID-19 and what's happening around us. So we've added safety to that. And I've got marketing information, and then we've got marketing in a separate one. So one of the things I suggest to them is that they learn these different sections so that they can sort of think themselves through a listing presentation. So if you're caught out and you don't have your phone, or you can do it, once you get a listing presentation, guys, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your iPad, you can do it wherever with that. So these sections we've got, first one, we are going to talk about connecting.
Love you.
Love you too.
I'm going to ask everybody to please mute their phones when they come on here so we can do that. I've got everybody raised up in here so that I can't see really who's on here. So if you are, unless you want to talk or something, and I won't be able to see you because I've got the full screen so I can teach through this. So the first one is connect. We're going to talk about connecting with the people that you're with, the motivation and expectations. The second one we're going to go over is safety. And that's really a new one that we've just added to our listing presentation. And I think it's for us and it's for the clients that we're going to be talking to out there. They need to understand that we value what their safety is. Market information, price, marketing, and then our value we're going to talk about when you're putting these things together. So the first one is connect, the goal. So with doing the connection, you want to talk to them. Generally, what I like to do is I'll start out in this listing presentation and point out my information, because you're going to either take this to them ahead or you're going to give it to them on a card or something. So let them know that you're always available. So right now you don't have the listing, so you want them to know that you are available. And then on the right hand of my presentation, I like to take a picture of their home, and either that or you can put another picture of a listing that you've done prior to this, or one that you're considering doing. One of the companies that we use, and a lot of the photographers today will enhance photos. So you can see that this one is enhanced. The skies is red, and a lot of times they'll turn the lights on. I have found that when you use or take a photo of someone's house and you put it here, first thing you do is this helps connect. Oh my gosh, that's my house. We've even gone to the county records and pulled it off there when there was no house that we didn't have time to get to the picture. So putting something on here that says to them that you care, this is their home, and what they're going to do starts the conversation. So here you talk about their home, or you talk about enhanced photos. I also talk a little bit later in the listing presentation about enhanced photos and our marketing. All right. Well, look what I just did. Who would know that you would do this? All right, let me go back in here and pull it back in. Sorry, guys. Hi, I can see all of you now. Welcome. Let me pull that listing presentation back in because it pulled off the screen for me. Let's see. All right, we fixed it. Well, dadgum. There we go. I can't see down there. I've got that thing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our goal: to sell your home in the least amount of time, making the most money and the least amount of stress. So guys, if you don't learn anything from this, memorize that little saying, because what they want to know, what they're most interested in, is how much money are they going to make. So our goal for you today is to sell your home in the least amount of time, making you the most money with the least amount of stress. We're going to talk about 3 important issues. The first one is your motivation to sell the home. The second one is going to be the price that we set on your home. And the third one is marketing your home. And it's real important that you say the price that we set. because you want them to feel like they're involved in what you're doing. The next thing you're going to talk about is, where do you plan on move? This is their motivation. Where are they going? So how soon do you have to be there? Have you considered what the net proceeds and what would be necessary for you to make from the sale of your home? And then the fourth thing is, do you know the principal balance of your mortgage? If you look to the right hand of this slide, there's an estimated seller's closing cost over there. I don't generally go over this at this time, but I pointed out to them as we get into, and in our next session, we're going to go over the seller's closing cost. I'm going to tell you what we do and how we do this. And I would say to you, never ever go to a listing appointment without an estimated seller's closing cost. One of the most important things that you're going to talk to them about is how much money are they going to make when they sell this home. So you're going to point out to them that as you get into this and you go over the CMA, you want them to make sure they understand, and together we are going to decide what you're going to net from this home. Make sure that it's okay. Then also you want to talk to them here about, do you know the principal balance of your mortgage? And so a lot of times they say they look on a coupon if they still have coupons. If they go online to pay, that's going to be pretty close. But you're going to want to know that principal balance, because you can put it in there in the loan payoff and you're going to get closer to the net amount that they're going to make on the sale of this house. So you want to get that mortgage information and find out what that is. The next thing we're going to talk about is the expectations. And one of the things, we had this different before COVID-19. We used to say there's 3 things can happen today. The first one is, I'm going to list your home. The second one is, you may decide not to list with me. And the third one is, we may decide, or you may decide, it's not the best time to list your home on the market. I sort of took that out, or I did take that, sort of took it out. I took it out because I think there's a lot of hesitancy because of what's happening. We're in a health crisis. So we softened that a little to say, today, after considering the market conditions, safety for you and your family, your home valuations, and your marketing strategy. So we're going to consider all those different things today. You will decide to list your property with us. You may decide, or we may decide, under the current market conditions and your motivation, it may not be the best time to list your home. Either way, we will work in your best interest to get your property sold and to help you prepare for the listing in the near future. So you're not taking yourself out of the situation, but you're letting them understand that you know that right now there are safety risks and you're going to watch out for them and those safety risks. So the next thing we're going to talk about in this deal, remember the first one, we're connecting. So all of these things have had to do with connection. The next thing is safety during the shift. So we move into a slide, and here you can make up what you want to. If you want to put, again, this is our listing presentation, so you can put a lot of different things on there. If you want to put where you wear your gloves, if you want to put booties in there, if you would like to put a mask, a picture of a mask, whatever you want to do. Here is where you're going to talk about safety that you're going to do. So are you going to put those things in the house, every home that you list, or are you going to have them available for someone, for the buyer's agent, for the buyers that they bring through? Are you going to ask the buyer to make sure that their buyers, that the buyer's agents wear a mask and that they have gloves? Are you going to turn all the lights on? Are you going to ask them not to touch the light switches and not to touch the doors, that you've got the lights turned on, you've got the doors open? Whatever you're going to do, the precautions that you're going to do, the safety that you're going to take with your buyers to protect the sellers, this is what you're going to talk to about this point. And then we have another slide that goes into a little bit more detail, and I broke it down in different categories. So in-person showings are still available. So we want them to know that we can still show houses to somebody, that we're there. Everything is not done electronically. We're into a lot of the vertical situations. And you know, if you remember on the video, I said, I think we're in reset. I've had a lot of people on different mentors, different coaches, a lot of webinars and podcasts that I've listened to, and they've said that May looks like it is the new January. And so if you don't know what January is, if you hadn't been in the real estate industry for a long time, January is where you buckle down. If you hadn't been working October, November, December, January could be a little bit scary in there. January usually slows down a little bit, but it's where you go to work. It's where you put everything in, because it's going to affect the rest of the year. You're putting everything in. So May is your new January right now. Whatever you've been doing, think about that. Right now is the time to go back to work. If you've not been pivoting, because pivot is one of the words that we've heard over and over and over from every industry out there, let's pivot. So we've been, the ones of you that have been pivoting, you've been continuously doing the virtual showings, you've been out there, some wearing the mask, doing the different things, then you're still in the market. If you've not been doing that, now is the time to get back in there and start doing those things. So in-person showings are still available. Buyers and sellers are taking necessary sanitizing precautions. So we go back to what we just told them. Some are wearing masks. We're asking that any buyer's agent that brings someone through your house, that they wear a mask, they wear gloves, and a lot of agents are asking them to wear booties. I've heard different reflections on that. So whatever you feel like that you're going to do is what you need to present to the sellers. And then the second thing is you can electronically sign all documents from the comfort of your home. We should have already been able to do electronic signatures everywhere. So this is really not a step for us. Thank goodness a lot of us, most of us are already in that digital market. So we know how to do all these things. So you can convince them that we're not going to have to be there to sign these things. And then buyer precautions. We're limiting the number of people and buyers agents are being screened and given safety instructions. Just as we've already talked about, I wouldn't have 2 or 3 buyers going through at the same time. Most of the time, that's not a problem. I know that we're having a lot of property go on the market today that is totally, you get full price, sometimes over full price, and they're gone in 24 hours. Sorry. The last one is contracts. We will email all listing and buyer contracts for digital signatures. So again, we're telling them that we're practicing that. And then virtual tours. We'll talk about this a little bit later on in here, but we do have virtual tour appointments and they're available if you feel more comfortable meeting virtually. So that's talking about the listing presentation. When you're in there, if they want to meet with you afterwards, they want to talk with you about something that's going on. So you're going to meet with them again. If you're not familiar with Zoom, I'd practice with someone and get familiar with Zoom so that you can use that with your clients as you talk to them, because a lot of people are moving more to that. I know on our team, we've had several people that have done FaceTime. We've had some out-of-state clients that have want to look at property. They've called and they've told us what they're looking for. We've narrowed it down for them on Zoom. And then what you do is you go in there and go to the home, show it to them on FaceTime. They get to see it. And we've had agents out there that are writing offers without them even seeing the property. So it's getting more and more important that we learn how to use this digital market today. So we're talking about shift and explain our market. I feel like today that the agents that know something about what's happening in the market are going to have the confidence of the clients that are out there. So you need to be knowledgeable and need to have some of this in your listing presentation so that when you send it out to them before you do the Zoom meeting with them, so that they can walk through this with you, that they know that you're up on what's happening in the market. Another thing that I want to share with you, and we're going to talk about some of these numbers because I promise that's happening out there, but in a shift, the best agents make the most money. I have been through several shifts. It's not a time to be afraid and to think the sky's falling, because it's not. And especially in the kind of shift that we're in today, we're in a health crisis, not a home crisis. If you look back in the early 2000s, and we're going to talk about some numbers with that, but if you look back during that time, the houses were losing their value. People were foreclosing on them. Things were so much different than they are today. So let's look at some of those numbers and see what's happening even today. Market appreciation. Now, I subscribe to a company called Keeping Current Matters. If you would like to subscribe to them, they're keeping everything up to date, and it'll make you knowledgeable if you want to talk to the clients about numbers and things that are happening out there in the world today. And I really believe that they're interested. When you want to do a market update, or I had a suggestion today on a podcast that I was listening to, and they said, I challenge you to take your database, or at least take some people in your database. He said, take everyone in your database. And he said, email them and just ask them if they would be interested in having a short Zoom meeting with you so you could give them updates on the market. Listen to the things that you're going to talk about. So get on one-on-one. These are the people that you've already sold to. These are the people that are your centers of influence. These are people that are your leads that you're talking to. Send them out there, because people want to know what's happening in our market today. So market appreciation, if you look back the time I was talking about a few minutes ago, 6 years leading up to that housing crash that we had in 2008 and 9. And, guys, I want to share something with you. One of the reasons that I can so confidently tell you that the market is good is the shifts that I've been through. I started a company back in 98 as we went through this and excelled all those appreciations and those things. And I started another company in 2007 when the crash hit. Both companies went to #1. A lot of it has to do with your mindset. You have got to believe that you can sell their house yourself in this market. So if you look at the time, the 6 years leading up to the crash, the appreciation, look where things went. I mean, it was everyone's home. They were buying them and they were appreciating huge appreciations. And then after that crash in 2007, 8, 9, up to about 2013 or so in there. And then in 2014, look at market appreciations. We've started to go up, and we still aren't down below where we were in 2014 and 2019. Now, I'm going to give you some up-to-date numbers through April in just a few minutes, but this market appreciation is something that's really, really important, and it's going to play into the fact that today there are more people with equity, lots of equity in their home, and I'm going to give you those numbers, something that it's going to help you as you're deciding where you are and who you want to market to. So the next slide is the Mortgage Credibility Index, and you can see the housing bubble. So, whoops, got my touch screen here, fingers happy here. So in 2004, if you look over here, the housing bubble, 868. And, you know, this was the credits, the people that could get credit. Look at that housing bubble. And it meant that anyone could get it. They had what they called then a legal eye. And you could just say how much money you made and they took your word for it. And if you remember, the mortgage companies were the reason, the mortgage credit and mortgage debt was one of the big reasons that crash hit us so hard at that point. And you look over here where we are today, it's much harder. And sometimes we frown because we can't get people through, but that keeps our economy there. We want them to only make loans to people that can pay back the loans, because if they don't, then we have an economy crisis, and not, which is worse or just as bad. I don't want to play down. The health crisis is pretty bad with that. But mortgage credit availability index is important. And then the number of homes for sale. Then what you have to understand is today we are in a seller's market. And I'll show you on a couple of other slides how that breaks down. But anytime you've got an absorption rate or you've got an inventory of homes that's over 7 months available, you're in a buyer's market. So if you've got more than 7 months, if you've got less than 6 months availability, then you're in, and this availability, you're going to be in a buyer's market and houses for 500 to a million, and you can be in a seller's market for 1 to 150. So you can break this down in a lot of different ways, but we are in a seller's market pretty much across the board. I'll show you some of those numbers as we go through that. And again, we have these numbers in our listing presentation. You can choose if you want them in there or not. I think it's a really good thing if you understand them, that you let the people know that you're not just trying to list their home, that you're involved in the numbers and you know what's happening out there, and that you can sell their home. Home equity cashed out. If you look back, there was $824 billion cashed out back during the last housing crisis and right before that. Now there's 232, a whole lot different cash out on equities. And I can show you the equity that's in the homes. Look at this. They've done research, and this was John Burns Consulting Company that did this. If you want to look this up, and the percentage of homeowners with equity in 2020. And I thought this was really interesting. So you've got in the blue over here, 42.1% in that dark blue have 100%. They own their house outright. I mean, that's a lot of people out there. And then the other breaks down in there so that you can see what was the difference in it. I'm going to go back just a second. I thought I had another slide in there, and I must not have put it in there. But if you look, the different colors here, 10% equity in their home is 7.3, 11 to 20 is 6.1. So actually, if you look at the two blues that's in there, the 100% and the 60 to 99%, you've got about 58% of the people out there that have about 50% equity in their home. Do you think that you could sell them a home? Are they going to be thinking different about right now? And, you know, what are some reasons that you could do that? Interest rates are lower than they've ever been. Sometimes people have outgrown their home and they need to get a bigger one. great time to buy. A lot of times there are people that are they're empty nesters and they're going to settle back, or their parents are moving in with them. Ask these questions, find out where they are, because most of the time today, with this many people with equity, there's still a lot of buyers out there and sellers. So when you talk to them, the next section is pricing your property. And so at the top of this slide, and you can create whatever you want to with this, but I think the factors, so if you're taking notes, these are the things that I would write down that you want to put down when you're talking about pricing their properties. So these are factors that do influence the sale of your home, so, or the value of your home, and that's market conditions. We're in the best market conditions that are out there right now. Interest rates, financing, buyer demand is higher than I've seen it in a long time. The second thing that motivates or has influence on the sale of their home is their motivation as a seller. So you can ask them questions we talked about in the very beginning. Where are they going? Is the spouse being transferred and one of the spouses is staying here with all the children and they need to sell their home? They're motivated. Are they just checking the market and they've got a little equity and they don't have to sell their home? They may not be as motivated. Find out what's going on. What is their motivation? Because that's your close. When you find that out and you get an offer, you go back to that motivation to help you close with them. And then the seller's terms that they're going to offer is another thing that influences the price of the home. So if they're going to pay closing costs, if they are going to offer to put all the appliances in there, what are the terms that they're going to offer? Then property features, structural integrity, architectural style, and floor plan. This does make a difference. And you guys know that if you've got a 1,500 square foot house on the lake, boat dock, and has all the amenities as the same 1,500 square foot house that's in a subdivision with no lake, no boat, no anything, you're not going to get the same price per square foot for the house that's in a subdivision as you get for one out there on the lake or on a golf course. Or if you're in a neighborhood that's got all 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and all of them are split bedrooms, and you've got the one listed that is not split bedroom, doesn't mean that it might not sell for that. Just means that there are probably more people looking for the split 3-2 than they are for the 3 on one side. Another example could be 2-story homes. If all the bedrooms are upstairs and there's no bedrooms downstairs, and you've got most of the 2-story homes that have at least 1 or 2 bedrooms downstairs and 2 bedrooms upstairs, or one, the master downstairs and the kids upstairs. If all of them are upstairs, doesn't mean there's not someone out there that would want to buy that. But structural integrity, the architect, the floor plan on that one would be maybe a little bit harder to sell. These are things you want to talk to people about in the very beginning. If you don't, you're going to have a problem when you go back with the contract and go, well, you never told me that because all my bedrooms were upstairs that we could have a problem with that. The other thing that's going to make a difference is the comparable properties. And we know that. So when we talk about comparable properties, we're going to talk about the actives. These are the ones that are current on the market. The actives are going to be your competition. That's what you tell the sellers. Anything that's active out there is your competition. And anything that's sold, that's the recent sales. That's what the appraisers are going to use. They need some sold properties. Now, I have in the past had appraisers use currents, not very often, so don't count on that. We had a house listed in Centerton that I told the couple that, and it was like a dollhouse. When I'd have it shown, some of you will relate to this, I'd had agents give me feedback and said, this looks like a $400,000 house puked out $100,000 home. And that's exactly what the feedback said, but it was an interior decorator had decorated. It was beautiful. And there was no comps to sell it for what the value was. The decorations were not going, but it was pristine. So we priced it at the top, and I felt like we were going to have to lower the property. Again, your transparency is so important to them. We got full price offer. So my transparency, I went back to them and said, guys, we've got an offer. So the two things we have to worry about when you list a property, number one is the inspection, what's going to come on back on that. So you always want to talk to them about that. The second thing is the appraisal. If it doesn't appraise, then you're faced with going back and saying, hey, we've either got to lower the price or the buyer's going to have to bring cash. And I can tell you, in most situations, buyers' agents are not going to advise the buyer to pay more than a house is going to appraise for. So generally, it's going to be your sellers that are going to be reducing the price. So I went back to these sellers and I said, you know, we've got this sold, we've got this offer. That's the good news. So, and I'm not being negative Nanny here, but I want to tell you there are no comps. to stand up for this price that we've got. That appraiser went in and used a current and made that house comp. And I couldn't believe it. You know, I like we said, we thought it was an answer to prayer at that point. So you don't ever know. So you explain to them in the very beginning that, you know, the inspector's going to look at it, and we are at the, you know, the appraiser, we're going to be at their justice of whatever they want to say. Most of the time, you're not going to change their mind. And then the last thing you're going to talk to them about that influences the sale of your home is exposure. So this would be marketing, ease of showing. So you've got a lot of people that go, hey, I need 24 hours. I've got kids. Those houses are not going to, that's going to influence the sale of their home. You've got people, this is still, whether we like it or not, and whether we understand it or not, with COVID-19, there's still a lot of people relocating and coming in that still need houses. Slowed down some, but they're only here for a short time. And if you can't show that house, they're probably not going to buy that house. And so another good reason for you to get good virtual showings, good videos, so people can look at these. I'd like to say, are there any questions, but we're not opening it up for that right now. Please put, if you've got questions, please put those in the chat so Carrie can get back with you. So these are factors that have no impact. Just like when you're going through the listing presentation, you want to talk to them about things that have an impact on the sale. You also want to address the things that have no impact. Again, it's going to come back and bite you if you don't talk about it before the problem shows. So what they paid for it has no impact on the current value of the home. So they can say, hey, back in 2010, I paid X amount for this house, and I should have this much equity in it. We are at the mercy of the comps that are out there. We're at the mercy of the appraisers, as we said a few minutes ago. So it really, what they pay does not come into play. If you tell them that right now, and when you get to the end, they're going to understand how you came to your prices. Only some of your investments have impact. A lot of people think that by changing the carpet, painting, those kind of things, those have impact, but they're emotional impact. The appraiser is going to look for, did they remodel the bathroom? Does it have granite? The kitchens, landscaping. Those are the things that are going to make a big difference. If they change the flooring from carpet to hardwood, they're going to give them, that's going to have some impact on it. So go through these things and explain to them. And a lot of times people say, well, I want to wait and put my house on the market because I'm going to put new carpet and I'm going to do all these things. Well, if it's got holes and it's nasty, that might be a good idea, but please explain to them that that carpet is not going to give them $10,000 more. Emotional impact, people are going to like it when they look at it, and they're going to think, but you know, what if they don't even like the carpet they put in there? And I'd rather see clean carpet in there than carpet allowance. I know some of you are probably thinking that, why don't we just give them a carpet allowance? Because dealing with that at the end is a little bit harder. A buyer cannot make money at a closing, so you can't just pay them so they can go do that. Somehow you have to take care of that on the HUD, and you pay the installer. There's ways you can do that, but clean carpet sells. What you want to net from it. This goes back to almost the same thing as what you paid for it. Really doesn't make any difference. We can only tell you what the house is worth. Be transparent. You're the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. So they can't say, I have to make $50,000 out of it. You always go back to your numbers and exactly what it was worth. My phone is dinging and I'm so sorry. Turned it off. And then what family members and neighbors say has no impact. You may be in a neighborhood where the house down the street sells for $110 a foot. And when you look at that house down the street that sold for $110 a foot, it's 3,000 square foot and yours is 2,000 square feet, let's say, 1,000 square foot less. You're the smallest house in the neighborhood. We know as a real estate agent, the smallest houses in the neighborhood will get a little bit more money than the larger houses. It just works that way. The house down the street maybe doesn't have hardwood. Yours has hardwood. So they're going to take all of those things into consideration. And so you can't just look, does it make a difference what the house down the street sold for? Yes, it does. It makes a difference what it appraised for, because they're going to use those comps as they set those values. This is probably one of the most important slides that you'll put into a listing presentation. And I've had this in our listing presentation for years. And actually, I don't even know where I got it. I saw one in another company's presentation and I thought, man, they must have been to one of my trainings and they took that triangle. And then I realized that, you know, Century 21 has it, Coldwell Banker has it, Keller Williams has it. So in some of your marketing, you're probably going to find this, but this is really important. And I think the consumer understands. So this is the percentage of the market that your price is going to appeal to. So as you look at this pyramid, you can see right here in the middle that the market value is at 60%. If you price your house at market value, the price that we're going to give you when we look at the currents, when we look at the solds, when we look at the pendings, we look at the expires, and we bring this market value price to you. If you price it at market value, you're going to pick up 60% of the buyers that are out there. A lot of sellers will say, hey, let's just go a little bit above. Let's go 10% above market value so we'll have room to negotiate. But what happens, and if you show them this, that if you price it 10% above market value, you've now attracted 30% instead of 60% of the buyers that are out there. Is that worth that negotiating power? And today in the market, depending on where you are, because we have a shortage, I don't even think you're going to have a problem with that. If you get it at market value, you're going to have multiple offers, or it's going to sell in 24 hours. Likewise, if you can show them that if they price it 10% below market value, that they're going to get 75%, 15% below, 90%. So in all honesty, this really makes a lot of sense to them. When you get back and when you get down to showing them what the currents and what the MLS shows, the market value, and they say, well, a lot of times we ask them, what do you think your home is worth? And if they say 250,000, 225, because that's what they want, by the time you get through with them, you're going to show them. And a lot of times they tell you, don't go price per square foot, but price per square foot is what we eat, sleep, and breathe. So if you turn around and ask the seller, what price per square foot would you like to see on your house? Again, that's going to make a difference because you've already gone through that. If the top house that in their neighborhood is sold for $110 a square foot and they think they want 125, then you can come back to this pyramid and you can show them what's going to happen with that. Another thing that we talk about is the first 2 weeks that your house is on the market. In the first 2 weeks of a property being on the market, the activity is greater. The prospective buyers are either 1, they're new buyers in the market, or 2, they are buyers that have been looking for but have not found what they want. After that initial period, only prospective buyers. So this graph will make a difference too. Take advantage of the exposure that you naturally get when your home first goes on the market at the initial asking price. So the first 2 weeks are really, really important. And then here is where you talk to them about the market analysis that we've been going over. So this is prices paid for the recently sold. We call those comparable properties. Now, when you're looking for comparable properties, and next week we're going to talk about putting all this together. I'm going to go to the MLS, pull some comps, show you how we work and what we do. So here's where you're going to talk about that. Recently sold are the comparables, and then the similar properties, and I called this a few minutes ago, the current on the market. This is the competition for the houses that are being listed out there. So if you list yours highest in the neighborhood, you're going to sell the other houses that are out there that are on the market. And then comparable homes that did not sell, we call those expireds. Now, there are times that I don't take expireds. There are times that I do take pendings. There are times that I do take expired listings. You're the pro. Look at all these and decide what you're going to say to them. And next week, we'll talk about the criteria. It's going to be really important that they understand criteria and what you pull. I've got a couple of slides in here on an enhancement that I'll show you, and you'll get some idea what we're talking about. So now we're going into our marketing. Again, you want to be the knowledgeable person that's out there when you go in and talk to them about listing their home. So you want to have some resources. This is information that the sources that buyers use to find their homes. So you can see 93% of the buyers out there today in 2019 used the website. And I believe that as we get through 2020, that's even going to go up higher than the 93%. You can look back the difference in 2006, 80% were using that. 87% used a real estate. 73% in 2019. This did not change. That mobile, if you're in an open house or if you're out there with buyers, then you understand today that almost everyone that walks into that house knows about as much about it as you do, because they've already looked it up on some Zillow or some other Realtor.com or some other app that they've got out there that shows them houses that are on the market. And then open houses were 51%. I would say before COVID-19, open houses were huge. And you can look at even in 2019, it dropped a little from 2018. I think that more and more people are using the internet and they're being more digital. However, I still, and I believe it will come back, the mega open houses is one of the best things that you can do if an open house is done right. And what I mean by open houses, and we're not going to do as many in this market, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but it's how you market them. It's traffic boosters, how many signs you put out there. A lot of agents, when they have an open house, what you think about is they just go to the office, they print out the MLS form, and that's all they do. And they put a sign in the yard that says open houses, and they go, oh, no one showed up. But the agent that takes the time to market it, set up an event, put yourself out there, do a video before, put it on social media, and put 15, 20, and some of the videos that I've looked at on training for open houses, they put 100, and I think a lot. I don't think our team has ever put 100. We've put 25 or 30 out there before. It makes a huge, huge difference. Also, you're going to go look and see where you're going to place the signs. So if you're still doing open houses and you want information on mega open houses, let me know, because it will make a difference on the people that you have, even in this situation. Then if you look at yard signs, and we're going to show you that yard signs are not even going to be as much today. Yard signs was like 39%. On online video sites, I think that's going to continue to go up this year. It went down a little bit in 2019. But look at print newspaper, 11%. That has gone down drastically. It's still going to continue to go down. If you look on down, a lot of the other criteria, you get down to less than 1%. So print advertising is not where you want to put the market. One of the reasons you want to show a slide like this, at least the 2019, and you get these things from NAR. NAR has all these statistics. So if you go in there, you can pay for it, or a lot of it's free to the buyers and sellers home buyer profile that's in NAR. So a lot of these statistics come from there. Less than 1% in a lot of your print and newspaper. So what you want to tell the sellers is that I want to put my marketing money where it's going to do the best for you, and we're going to get your home sold. All right. The next slide is actually the slide that we talked to them about, which is a little bit different than the first one. The first one was where they found the source that they found their house. This is where buyers, was where they looked for the house. This is where they found the house that they purchased on this one. So in 2019, 52% of the people found the home that they purchased on the internet. How many of y'all are having people say, hey, I want to look at this house, I want to look at this house, and they're sending you the house before you actually send them some that you want to show them? 52% of the people found the house that they purchased last year on the internet. 29 used a real estate agent. And again, what I said here, as far as found the house, it dropped down to 6% with yard signs, relative or neighbor 6. And this is where it drops down to less than 1% on newspaper advertising. That's not where they found their house. There are still companies out there that put their open houses, they advertise in the newspaper. I understand that that's a perception that gets it out there to the public. I believe that the digital, the internet has taken over that, and that you need to let the sellers, as a matter of fact, we don't advertise, our team, we don't advertise in the newspaper. And I have nothing against them. I've got a lot of friends that have worked for the newspaper, but we tell the people that at the very beginning. This is why we don't do that. We want to put our marketing money where it's going to come back and make you the most money. You're going to have the biggest return. This is what our marketing page looks like. Now, a lot of you probably have a listing presentation that you've got different pages for these, and that's okay. I just put everything on one page so that our team can walk through the marketing strategy that we have and one scenario up there. So what we do on ours is we walk through one box at a time. We talk about showing time and how we're set up with them, and that an agent from another company is going to call showing time and they're going to make an appointment. Here's where we explain to them that they need to be ready at any time to show that house, because they're showing time. I've been showing houses before, and they'll send a message back to me that I was declined. Well, first I think, well, why was I declined? What happened? Was it off the market? This was not a good time? Just decline doesn't make any it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So explain to them that that may happen, but they need to be ready. And if they can't, you need to know why they can't, so you can get back in touch with that agent that wanted to show that property and get them in there at another time and explain to them what happened. So even though you've got showing time that's setting those appointments for you, still stay involved. When you get that notification that it was declined, figure out why and get back with that agent. And then if you're with Keller Williams, some of you on here are not with Keller Williams, but we have a thing that's called Skip the Fees, and that's with Keller Mortgage, and they don't charge. So if you're not with Keller Williams, I will tell you, if you sell a Keller Williams home and your buyer, and you ask them to pay the closing cost, then what will happen is if it is listed with Keller Williams and they are with Keller Mortgage, then they'll skip the closing cost. So the seller can save some money that way if a buyer will use them. And because the home is listed with Keller Williams, you can use that. If you are with Keller Williams, then you have that option. If you get a contract out there, that you can skip the fees, even if your home, if they are not listed, the buyers are not listed and they're using another one. If they'll change and get qualified with Keller Mortgage, then they can skip the fees too. The second thing, and toward the center on there, the third thing that I've got is we show a video of what we do as far as virtual open houses. So you're going to want something on there so you can demonstrate what you do with that. And then we use the QR code. A QR code is tied to our app. So if you don't have an app at your company, then you could do something like QR Stuff is where I use to make QR codes, and you can have them scan that and it can take them anywhere you want it to take them. You can say, if you scan this, then it's going to give you a market analysis. If you scan this, it's going to give you, you can win a prize. So whatever you use that for, scan that and you'll get all of my information. Anytime you're using a flyer, that's again print marketing, that's not going to get you a whole lot. Digitally, you want to get them back into your website. You want to get them back so you can get them in your CRM, get them in your database, and you can start setting up campaigns for them. So you can use this to get their phone number. You can use this to give them an online option that they can go to, the MLS, whatever. You can embed that in there so when they scan it, it's going to take them directly to something digitally that's going to let you know that they're there. Used to, when you use QR codes, and a lot of people go, well, people aren't going to understand that, you had to have a QR code scanner. You don't have to have that anymore if you have an iPhone, and I'm not sure about Androids, but iPhones, you just open the camera and it scans and it takes you right to where you want them to go. So you can explain that. And then I changed, we had mega open houses, and we talked about that with our sellers. We still talk about open houses, but I'm centering more with the team on virtual open houses. We're doing Matterport, we're doing virtuals where we can set a weekend where they can come on a Saturday from 2 to 4, and we're going to be online and we can walk them through any area of the house. We can answer questions. And I think that, you know, we say this is not the normal that we're doing it. I really think that this is becoming the new norm that's out there, that we need to understand and learn and use more virtual open houses and more virtual showings. And then you see I've got seller's property disclosure up there. I talk about that seller's property disclosure here with the seller as I'm listing it. I, you know, pull it out and I show it to them and I say, guys, we need this filled out as soon as possible. And if there's any questions that they have, it's really important. So many times, as we're at a lot of the lower ends, we're getting properties that we're getting offers on like less than 24 hours, as soon as it hits the market, because they're set up. When these hit the market, they call their buyers and they get them in there and they make over full price, sight unseen. We've had one of those that's come in. So you need that property disclosure so you can send that over quickly. So have that ready and either have it for them that they can fill out, do it on Form Simplicity so they can check and fill it there and tell them you're going to send it to them, but talk to them about the seller's property disclosure. Another thing that I ask the agents on my team to talk about on seller's property disclosure is that if you've had a problem in here, and some sellers say, well, we had mold and we had a moisture issue and it's fixed and there's no problem since, and we're not going to put that on there. That's not acceptable. The best thing you can do is have them put that on there and no problem since. You're not going to have people that won't buy that house if that problem is fixed. You know, if they had mold, then they're probably going to want some kind of mold test to show that there's no mold in there. I would tell the sellers, if they don't have one, to get one. But if there's been a problem, you're better off to disclose it. Arkansas is a non-disclosure state, which means that if a seller sells it, they don't have to disclose it. But as a real estate agent, you work under a different set of laws. And if you know it, you know there was mold in there and you sell that house and you don't tell somebody, you are liable for that. So talk to them about it as you're listing that property. And there is no listing that's worth losing your license over. So get that out in the open, be transparent, and tell them what has to happen. And then rapid response is something that I think is really important. Speed to lead today is more important than it's ever been. So talk about that with your sellers as you're going through your listing presentation. Show them what you have to do. Do you have something set up that if somebody goes on your website, it will send you a text immediately and you call them within seconds and talk to them and ask them, are they looking for a house that's in this price range, da, da, da? Or do you wait and wait for them to call you? So talk about your rapid response. How do you do that? Do you get a text? Do you get an email? What system do you have it set up on? And then the next thing is social media. Where are you marketing this? This is so important today. Do you have an account on Facebook that's a Facebook page that you're putting information out there for sellers? Are you marketing your listings there? Are you marketing on your personal page? There was a time where people said, you know, keep your business and your social life, your personal Facebook page separate. I say market those listings that you've got. You know, we've got 400, 500, 600, maybe 700 people on Hagen Group on our page for our business. I've got almost 5,000 people in my personal. I want them to see those listings that we have. So one of the first places I post them, now I post a lot of personal things because people like to know who you are. Before they list with you, before they buy with you, they've got to know you, like you, and trust you. They get to know you, like you, and trust you by seeing you on Facebook. I had someone call me the other day, and it was off of Instagram. And they said, you know, I love what you're posting. I like what you're saying. And I think that you are a reputable real estate agent, and I want to buy a house. And you don't have that happen real often, but it does happen because you're out there posting things that are relevant to what's happening in today's market. So be involved on your social media, Pinterest, LinkedIn. There's a lot of people that are focusing some of their listings and some of their things. LinkedIn has not been something that I've done a whole lot with, but I've heard a lot of success stories with LinkedIn. So check that out, get yourself out there on as many social entities as you can. And then you want to post your website, your CRM where you are, hagenteam.com. We have that pointed to our website. It's where it picks up our leads, and we talk about that. And then Keller Williams, our company, so your company. And down here says Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and this is what I was talking about a few minutes ago. I put that on there, and like I said, this is no pun against them. Because I've gotten a lot of things from people that work with Arkansas Democrat Gazette. However, I'm finding as you research the market that less than 1%, no percent of the people found the house that they purchased on print marketing. And so talk about that now, because if you don't, and they see one of these big companies put all these houses in there, open houses for sale, all this kind of stuff that they're still marketing there, they're going to want to know why you don't put theirs there. And it's going to be a negative instead of a positive. So if you market there, that's great. If you get something from that, then tell them what you get from there. But generally, nationwide statistics show, NAR statistics show that less than 1% comes from newspaper and print marketing. And that even goes for magazines that are out there. We have a lot of people calling us today wanting us to advertise in a magazine. The other thing I skipped up there, and I want to go back to it because it's really important and probably more important today than it has been in any other time, are professional photos. And I don't take professional photos. I don't make any money on anyone that does, but find a photographer out there that you trust that will take good pictures for you. That if the grass is growing, they know that you don't want them to take a front picture of that front house. If they do, they're going to have to go back and take another one. We had one that I sent a photographer back out on that actually took pictures, and I said, what the heck were you thinking? And they had, these sellers had Dollar General bags hanging on their kitchen cabinets, on the doorknobs. And so you don't want that kind of thing in your pictures. Professional photos, because what did we say the statistic was a few minutes ago about 93% of the people start their search on the internet. What is the first thing that you look at? You look at professional photos. And so if you've got really bad photos, what's going to happen? They're going to stop and move on to that next house. So your photos are really, really important. Video marketing today is more important than it's ever been. So if you hear anything today, get good photos on those listings. Okay, we talked a few minutes about open houses, and this is where I would go into our mega open houses. I've changed that so that now we talk about virtual open houses, the place that we're going to market those on social media. We're going to create a video. We're going to do a Matterport. We turn our videos, our professional photos into iMovies. We promote it that way. If you're not familiar with using some source like an iMovie, I would get familiar with that because you can do those for free. And then we do live Facebook posts. So tell these things, have them down so that your seller can see. Visual is better than just talking to them. So even if you're doing this listing presentation or your listing presentation with Zoom, go through these different things that you're going to do. And on the right, these are just some questions that if you're doing an open house, I would suggest that you have these in there. If we do an open house, we have a drawing for people that come through the open house. You can have a drawing for people that come virtually. Now, you can't reward someone for giving you a referral because the ARA would frown on that. That's paying somebody money that did nothing for the commission. But someone that signs up to get information from that, you yourself can do that. So seller questions, you want to know, when do you plan on moving? If you were to move, where would that be? How soon would that be? 1 month, 3 months, longer? Set yourself a group of, if you're doing this virtually and talking to them, have a seller's questionnaire, things that you can ask them. I had a buyer call yesterday, a friend of mine from my hometown said her son had just moved here and he was wanting to look for a house. I knew questions to ask him before I got on there. I said, you know, what price do you want to pay? Well, the mother was talking to me at first and the son was there and she said, well, he wants to look at 170.
I've heard this before, so you
Uh-oh.
know it, but
Hang on, mute yourself. You know it, but. Okay, thank you. So if the buyer calls you and they say they're looking for a $170,000 home because that's what someone else has told them and they look for that a few backs back, say, look, let's change how you say that. Instead of saying what price you're looking for, what payment are you comfortable with? And most of you should have a payment calculator. And so what I did with this guy, he told me 170 and I said, what payment are you comfortable with? And he said, 1,500. And I said, okay. He said, I've got a new job and it's much different than it was 3 years ago. So I took the 1,500. Now he's going to have to call a loan originator, but you can tell them a little bit better what they're doing. So I said, okay, I took the amount of money that he said he was wanting to pay. You can go backwards with a lot of the loan calculators. I put the 1,500, I took 300 or 400 out for taxes and insurance because I was figuring principal and interest for him because that's what the lender is going to talk to him about. And so I went back and I said, you can apply for like a $260,000 house instead of a 170. He went, oh, wow. And so he could now get more because of the interest rate being so much different than it was 3 or 4 years ago. So you want to talk to them, ask them what payment they're comfortable with. They may tell you a price, ask them where they got that price. Ask them questions. Do you need a 3-bedroom, a 4-bedroom? You know, what's the most important thing that I'm going to be looking for you? So these are the things that go into your open house questions that as you're walking through them. Virtual open houses, when a buyer calls you, these are things that you're going to tell the seller. The seller, you want to know what their motivation is the main thing in here. And when you're at an open house, what you're trying to do is to pick up clients. So you want to pick up sellers and you want to pick up buyers. Most agents keep in their minds that they're only going to pick up buyers at open houses. That's not true. You can pick up sellers too if you ask the right questions. So with virtual systems in place, you need some kind of cloud storage, and we'll talk about that again in another session. And then Zoom with buyers. If a buyer wants to go look at a house, go online at the MLS, Zoom in with them, share your site, and go look at houses that way and narrow some of them down. Some of them, I've drove up in front of houses before, and just the front of the house, the buyers will go, no way, I'm not going in there. You probably have done the same. Get a virtual buyer presentation. Again, we'll have that in the next meeting. So the last thing we're going to talk about today is our value. And on our slide, we go why list with Keller Williams Market Pro Realty, where we are, and the Hagen team. So here I introduce the staff that I have. If you have a staff, put the staff up there. If you work with one other person, put them up there. If you are the only person, then you might want to skip this and go on and talk about yourself. I introduce the team that's in there. This is our team members that are there. And then I talk about what the MLS is showing. Now you need to update this. This was through April 28th, but every month you need to put something different in here. So I talk about where we are and what company that we're at. So look and see where you are, and if you're number one in something, everybody can be number one at something. Then put that on here. Right now, the company that we're at with Keller Williams, then transactions, we're number one. Volume, we're number one. The average, we're number one. And the market share, we've got more market share than anyone else. So I love pointing this out. You know, use what you have a strength in. If your company has got more listings in a subdivision and you're working that subdivision, put that up there. Tell them where and what you have strength in. Something else I want to point out, if you're using the MLS here, so you can look here on this one, for instance, the list and the sold. And then if you look down at the next company, there's more listings, but there's less solds. So you want to look at where you are. If you're here, you want to go, hey, we listed more properties. If I'm here, I'm going to say we sold more properties. So this number is a little bit less, but this number's higher. So we are selling more than we're listing. So again, we're in a seller's market. And then you've got the same thing here, the list, the sold, and the total. But the average price, again, is here. Days on market, again, you want to point this out, and the market share. So do something here that talks about why they want to list with you and the value. Pull something like this for yourself. This is the last 90 days sold. So look at where you are personally. Look at your company. Look at your team, wherever you want to go. Put something sold in the last 90 days because we're looking at the absorption rate and what's in there. If you're with Keller Williams and you want this slide, it's something that Larry shared at the last team meeting, so we can get that for you. If you're not and you're with another company, go back and look at what your company has done and the absorption rate and what percentage. You go back to your MLS, go back to Neighbor and see what percentage. And we broke these down in 0 to 160. We sold 571 in 90 days. 106 of them was Keller Williams, and it was 18%. You could do that in each category. And then you go down to the absorption rate. This is really important. This is the absorption rate period for anyone in Northwest Arkansas. So you can use this slide. In the 0 to 100, again, 571 were sold, 190 was the average. The active right now in that price range, as of the 22nd, here's when this was done, was 151. That means there's less than 1% market that's there, and so less for 1% a month of inventory. So we're definitely in a seller's market there. We're in a seller's market all the way up through 500 plus. It's less than 6 months here with a total active of 1379. Be the one to go out and get these listings, guys. And then the one of the last slides that you want to share is your promise for whatever you're going to be, if your team or whatever. I do this as the team lead. They have this in there. Yours could be your promise is that I'm going to provide you with the most amazing, incredible real estate experience that you could ever imagine. That is my goal. And you can say, as your agent, I'm always available to you and to personally visit with you. And then you want to put your resume over here. I put my resume because our team can sell that as the team lead. And so if you're a team leader, then you can put your resume over there. If you're an agent, you can put your resume over there. If you don't have a resume, even if you sold sales in something else, you want to say what you did before. If you don't, then you don't want to put that up there, and you want to get these listings and you want to have a resume soon. That's going to show that. Okay, if you'll put the questions up there, I'm through with that. I want to quickly, before I lose everyone and before you leave, I want to quickly tell you that I put some new stats in here this week, and if you hang on to the end, I've got a text number that I'll give you where you're going to be able to get the stats that I'm showing you right now. I'm going to give these to you. So this is the labor. We said 14.7% is what the unemployment had gone up. Not going to spend a lot of time on this because I'm going to send it to you. I don't know that this is necessarily something that you want to put in your listing presentation, but I do think it's stuff that you need to know when you're talking to someone out there. And the media is so full of negative things. They just seem to capture all that, that it's good for you to be knowledgeable again, and this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics and how it breaks down. I think it's important that this is another slide that I'm going to be giving you, that it's got the services like bartenders. That was the biggest percentage that was in there. Retail, temporary services, it breaks them down in each category of where they are. And again, we know that a lot of these are temporary layoffs, and that shows in this slide here the breakdown of statistics: employed, unemployed, temporary, permanent, and then the unemployment rates, that adult men, adult women, and teenagers. And then these are suggestions for personal updates. I would put a picture. We talked about that in the very beginning. Do something over there. You can include their names as you do your first slide. You might want to put your picture up there. You want to put your information on it, especially now because it's digital and they're going to be able to keep this. You're sending it to them and they're going to have your information, and you can say that to them. Go back to this if you ever lose my phone number or what's involved in that. Another thing for an enhancement that I think would be good, if this was an upper end property that we went on a listing presentation for, and there weren't as many, but you can take and you can just pull it up, take a screenshot, pull this over here, put what you put on here. So if you don't want your, when we normally do our listing presentation, our CMA is paper, and we slide our computer back and we do the paper. Another way to do it is to put it on here. And so if you do that, you want to circle what you're talking about here. I was going to hone in on the top two. And this is the first one. I put information from the MLS, and I took information from the listing that I was going on and put it in here and compared it. The one I was going on was 22 acres. This is 26. So there was a difference there. So I could show them the difference on what it sold for and what we were trying to list this other house for. The second one that I had circled on there, this was the second one. Again, I put the list and the sold price, more than 4 years of design. This was a lot bigger than the other house. So it shows them pictures and actually what we were comparing their house to. This makes it a little bit more personal, and they totally, totally understand where you're coming from. Again, this was one that was what I call a non-conforming property. So I actually took a picture of the map of where these houses were, that I was showing them the price range and what we're pulling from, so they could see that they're not right there in the neighborhood that where we're having to pull it from. Actually, when they call me, they said there's no comps, is what they had been told. So I wanted them to understand. And then here are the actives that we pulled. That was the solds a few minutes ago. This house is not comparable. It had 200 acres, but it pulls up in that. It was the only thing as we were following and trying to find something that was comparable. So sometimes you have to look outside the box. You have to talk about it so that they understand why and how you got that price. Again, we're going to go into this a little bit more next week when we talk about putting your listing presentation together. So do something in the very beginning. Your name goes here. I'm giving you a slide that's got the different sections that we talked about so you can put yours together, reminding you to put something in there about safety. And then I'm giving you these slides on the market that we talked about so you can have them for whatever you need them for. And the way I also put this one in here in case you need that. And they're going to be on a PowerPoint, so you can take them and personalize them whatever you want to. I did put what we do on there. You can personalize that. I gave you this, and what you're going to do. All right. So our next session is going to be the 19th, and we're going to do systems and how you prepare for your listing presentation. If you would like the copy of those slides that I quickly went through at the end so we could stay on time, you can text the word "My Free Bonus," no space in there, to 44222. And then you'll receive that listing presentation cheat sheet that I just went over. So the number you're going to put in your text at the top is 44222, and text the words "My Free Bonus." Cannot have any space in there, no capitals, nothing, just "My Free Bonus." And the way you can make that happen is type in "My Free Bonus" and then hit a space bar, and it won't change it. It won't spell check it for you until you've got that. So I'm going to go back and pull everybody on here that's left. Do we have any questions maybe